Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Clean Libertarian Podcast. Hope that you guys are doing great out there. Everything's going pretty good around here. Today, I got a really good episode on. So I've been really wanting to have somebody on who can explain what kratom is, what it does, the benefits, the downsides, all that good stuff. And in the process of trying to find someone, I ran across Matt Wright. Matt is one of the good folks over there at Muddied Waters Media. And he has not only a lot of experience with kratom, but he also has one hell of a story too. So walked into this thinking it would be, one conversation, and ended up being a even better one than that. Matt's got a really great story, and I know that you guys are going to enjoy it. So without any further ado, here is Matt Wright. All right. What is up, Matt?
What's going on, Drew? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing really good. This is you are someone I've been looking forward to talking to, because you're gonna lay a little knowledge on me that so you and I touched base. I put on a tweet on the Twitter sphere, the Bird app, asking for help with kratom, because and as soon as I mentioned it, and I knew this would happen, there was like 6 random DMs in my message box. It's like, hey bro, hit me up. I got kratom for sale, or some Indian dude. And it's like, that's the bulk of the information that's out there, right? So
to be fair, none of those guys were Indian. They were all from Indonesia. It's a guarantee. Okay. 100% guarantee. I get them all the time.
Is that the spot? Is that the
Yeah, that's where it's like the only area you can really grow it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll be damned. Something about the climate or whatever, huh?
Yeah, it has to do with how much it rains there and how warm it stays at like that tropical temperature, and how much it rains, and then the altitude, like all of it just made perfectly in order to be able to grow that plant.
Okay. Okay, well, and we'll get into all that, but I want to so just give an introduction a little bit on you. You're with Muddied Waters Media. How did that come about?
So actually, funny enough, it's because of kava and kratom that Muddied Waters Media came about, and that's what Muddied Waters is in reference to. It's what kava looks like, is muddy water. And that was the reference. My dogs are down here barking. That was the reference. That was the reference that was in there, and the fact that because the first show was Muddied Waters of Freedom before Muddied Waters Media took off, before we started adding more stuff. So we were like Muddied Waters because of kava, plus because freedom, the waters of freedom have been muddied. It just seemed like such a perfect fit. And my original co-host was a guy that I met when I was working at a kava bar. And he knew that I had gone and spoken in front of the Florida legislature about keeping kratom legal. And he was like, hey, we should do a podcast together. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do you know how many podcasts there are? Why would you want to add to this?
Right.
And then 6 months later, we did our first podcast, and that was 5.5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
So
rocking,
but yeah, that's where
too, huh?
Yeah, but if it wasn't for kava and kratom, Muddied Waters Media would not be a thing. I
will be damned. I never would have guessed that by the name, man, at all. That's great. That's great. So you're also someone who has found some freedom with kratom. Like, what does your story look like? Like, what led you to this journey?
So I was a derelict, is the best way to put that. When I first turned, like I was growing up, I was a very, very conservative. I was very conservative, very Christian. He's eating a box. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Stop it. Good. I was very conservative, very Christian, was very anti-drug, swore that I was never going to be a drinker. I was going to live a very Christian lifestyle. I was very Republican, very right-wing Republican growing up. And then I turned 18 and I discovered that drugs felt good.
That drugs were awesome.
Yeah, I realized that drugs were great. And from the first time that I smoked weed, it was like 6 weeks before I was doing acid and ecstasy regularly.
It was just like of addict, bro. Like that is
I was just like, this is great. Things make you feel better than this.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's see what else is out there. And so I was doing acid and ecstasy often. Like I did acid for an entire month every day. And I was popping ecstasy throughout the entire thing. And I loved it. I loved the way that it felt not to feel is the best way to kind of put that.
Yep.
And so I got really big into the rave scene in DC for a while, and I was doing all the party drugs. I was on the ketamine a lot. I was buying it in liquid vials and then making it at home. And then I was doing tons of ecstasy, tons of acid. And then one day I kind of woke up. Well, that's not true. One night I went to a club and I went there with $500. I went there with $500 because I had a lot of disposable income at the time. And I went home with nothing. And I don't remember how I spent that money. I don't remember going home, and I lived like 45 minutes away. And I was like, this is getting really dangerous. And I talked to one of my friends that had been at the club the night before, and he was like, dude, you were on like 15 hits of ecstasy. You were doing ketamine anytime somebody walked by. We're pretty certain that your heart stopped once. And I was just like, okay, I need to stop. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I am done with this. And because I was young and not bright, I just said, I'm just going to be a drinker. And so,
yeah.
So I traded all of those addictions that I had just moved it all into alcohol. And it made it where I didn't crave anything. Like I wasn't craving the ecstasy. I wasn't craving any of the opiates. I wasn't craving ketamine. I don't know why anybody would. That drug is terrible. I hated it then and I did it all the time. Like people are talking to me about it now and I'm like, what? That's still a thing that people do? That thing is awful. And they, so I went out and I just started drinking and I would drink all night long and never had an issue. And then, I started going out and I wanted to stay out longer. So that's when I started doing cocaine. And, then when I couldn't find cocaine, then I started smoking crack and so I was out there. Yeah. That's also another pointless 5-minute high.
I mean, for real. For real.
For anybody out there who's never done crack, I'm going to let you know why it's so addictive. You stay high for 5 minutes and then you have to get more crack. That is how it becomes so addictive. It is a never ending cycle of very short, intense highs. I mean, they're intense, but it's 5-10 minutes and it's over and then you need more. So don't do the crack.
No. Yeah. And you're never, the bitch of it is you're never going to get more high than that first time. That first hit.
No.
That first hit is the peak. Every time it's a little bit more numb after that.
Right. That's the chase. Chasing the dragons mainly for heroin. But yeah, so I was doing a lot of cocaine and I was doing a lot, crack and stuff. And one morning I woke up. I had been up all night long. I don't even know what's in this box that he is chewing on.
He is after
it. I think this is the box that my fiance's engagement ring came in. But
it's not in there, right?
No, it's on her. It's on her finger.
Woo! Might be time to good time to pause the show for a second. Okay.
Right. It's either that or the necklace. I don't know. Anyway, so one morning I'd gone out one night and I had the next day off work, so I ended up like staying out late, like 4 or 5 a.m. I don't know. And then my friend, who I won't say her name, she called me at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and so I answered it, and it was weird that I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning because I'm pretty certain that the night before I was blind in many different ways. And she was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I was sleeping." And she goes, "Well, I got really good cocaine. Do you want to come over?" And I was like, "It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Why the hell not?"
Yeah.
So I went over there, and it got there like 9:30. And she was like, "Here, and this stuff is great. I've got she had like 3 8 balls of it."
Damn.
Yeah. And because she was kind of dealing it on the side, and she was who I normally bought it from, but every once in a while she'd just be like, "Come over, this stuff's amazing." And I was like, "Okay." That meant I didn't have to pay. So I went over there, and she was geeked out from the night before. She still hadn't slept, and we started cutting lines, and she goes, "Yeah, I can't do it that way anymore." And I was like, "Why not?" And she goes, "Because my nose is so messed up now." And I was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And she pulls out a syringe. So I'm doing lines, and she loads up a syringe of it, and she was like, "I need you to do me a favor." And I was like, "What's up?" And she goes, "I need you to inject this into me." And I was like, "I have never done that before, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to." And she was like, "No, it's fine. I'll get it in. I just need you to steadily push the plunger." And I said, "Okay, if you need me to." And so she got it in, and then I pushed in the plunger, and she looked at me and she goes, "Wow, that was a really big hit." And I said, "Oh." And then we took it out, and she walked away, and then she just crumpled to the floor and started going into seizures. And at the time I was living in Virginia, and they didn't have the guardian angel laws or whatever they're called, where if you call about somebody ODing, they won't arrest you. And I was having this pure terror inside of me. Like my fingerprints were all over this apartment. I was the last number she had texted or called. It was I was like, there's no way that it's going to be proven that I wasn't here if I just leave. So I spent the next 10 minutes trying to revive her. And I was luckily I got her back. And and this is going to sound terrible, but it's the only time I've ever struck a woman. But I honestly, I had no idea what to do. I did mouth to mouth, nothing. I was doing chest compressions, nothing. I was just like, "Oh my God." So I just hit her, and she snapped out of it, woke up, and she was screaming. Her pupils were like saucers. Her eyes were just straight black. She kicked me square in the chest. She kicked me square in the chest so hard that I had a bruise the shape of her boot. And then she shook out of it, and she looked at me, and she was like, "Why are we in my room?" And I was just like, "Holy can I curse on this show?"
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Okay,
Go
cool.
for it.
Yeah. Okay. I was getting ready to do it. I was like, "Wait, I don't know what the rules are here." I was like, "Holy shit. How the fuck do you not remember what just happened?"
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, what do you mean?" And I was like, and she was like, "What's that on the ground?" And I was like, "That was where you were Linda blaring vomit all over the room when you were seizing." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, you OD'd." And she was like, how am I, what, how did I wake up?" And I was like, "I hit you. I'm sorry, but I had to hit you." And she was like, "No, thank you." And both of us sat there, and she was like, "I think it's time that we need to stop." And I was like, "Yeah, I think you're right." And I said, "How about this? Sell me all the cocaine that you have left, because I don't want you to risk overdosing again." And then I went home and I did all of it. because
Bro,
I'm an
like
addict.
that is I identify on such a real level. I identify on such a real level. That's wild. Yeah.
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 And then after that, I was like, okay, I need to be done because what if I hadn't been there? What if somebody wouldn't be there if that ever happened to me? So I was like, okay, I need to be done. But I continued drinking, and and I started drinking a lot, and this was in my early 20s. This I was probably God when that happened. I was probably 24 when that happened, and so I started drinking a lot, and I'm certain that a lot of the problems that I had in life were also tied into the fact that all I did was drink. Um, so I decided that I needed to leave Virginia because of the problems I was having. So I left and I moved to Tennessee, to Nashville, a city very famous for not partying a lot. Um, but at the time, I didn't really think I had a problem. I just thought like I'd like to have fun.
Right.
So I left Virginia and I went down to Nashville and I started hanging out with a bunch of kids that went to Belmont University, and I would hang out with these kids and we would just get wasted. And I was older than them. I was about a decade older than most of them, and they were just like, this dude, he can kick our ass in beer pong. He can kick our ass in every drinking game. Nobody can drink a beer faster than him. Like, he's so easy to talk to. He gives great advice, which I have no idea what I was saying to these people. Um, and so like I kind of became like a honorary like leader of that group or mentor to that group, I guess. And so we all just started partying together all the time, and then slowly like the cocaine started seeping back in and other things started seeping back in, and I was like, I can't have this happen. So I was like, okay, I got to stop all that. But then it made me start drinking heavier because that was how I fixed it the first time. So I was drinking literally all day. I was waiting tables at this restaurant in Nashville, Mafiosa's. It's on 12 South for anybody who's there. Great restaurant, great pizza. And I would work Sundays. But before I would work on Sundays, there was this restaurant called Chago's that used to do all you could drink mimosas for $20.
Ooh,
and so
yeah.
I would show up at 11 a.m. and my shift at Mafiosa's was at 6. And I would drink from 11 till 6 and go into work. And there was a time that I blacked out before I even got into work. And when I came to, I was waiting on a table. I was just kind of like,
Oh
what?
my God. Yeah.
And like
Damn.
they gave me a look and they were just like, "Are you with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, where was I? Where are we in this? Because I don't know if you've ordered. I have no clue anything right now." And
Oh shit, man.
yeah, like there were days that I would go into that restaurant and like I'd be doing stuff during the day, and if I didn't have time to hit a bar beforehand, I would pick up a 6-pack and then go into the employee bathroom, and while I was changing, I would slam the 6-pack. And one of my friends was in there with me. She was getting changed, and I just went in there, and she was like, "You're already in uniform. You don't need to change." I pulled out a 6-pack, I opened all of them, slammed all 6 of them before she finished changing, and she said, "You know you have a problem, right?" And I said, "It's only a problem if I admit it." And I threw away I threw away the beer cans and just went about my day and went on with my shift. And like that was just how I lived, and I really didn't see it as an issue. And consciously, I didn't see it as an issue, but subconsciously, I knew it was because I was working on a couple of different book projects at the time. So a couple of books that never came to fruition, but all of the main characters were debilitatingly alcoholic. And like they would, like their friends would talk to them about it in these books. And it was like, when I went back and I read them years later, I was like, how did I not see this? Like I was telling myself you have a problem. But I did the same thing in Tennessee where I kept having all these issues and I couldn't figure out why. So I moved to Florida, another place that people famously move to quit doing drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
So I moved down to Florida in like 2013. Yeah, 2013. The Red Sox won the World Series. I moved down here in 2013 and I partied pretty hard for the first year and a half that I was here. And I started working on a libertarians campaign for House of Representatives. And he and I became pretty close over the course of it. And I was talking to him and he would always hold his meetings at kava bars. And I was always like, why? Why not just hold them at a regular bar instead of these hippie places with all these weird people? And so he was like, look, yeah, I quit drinking and I don't want to hang out at bars. So if people want to meet with me, they have to meet me here. And I was like, all right. So while I was there, he was like, you can't drink kava because you drink too much alcohol. And I was like, so I can't have that stuff that looks like mud. And he goes, no, because it'll affect your liver and it could cause serious damage. But you can have kratom. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't ask what it was because I'm, at that point, I'm still, I don't care what I put in my body. Like
Right.
That was my mentality. It didn't matter.
Right.
So I tried it one night and I hadn't had anything to drink that day yet. And I tried it one night and I had a red. I don't remember what flavoring was in it, but I know it was a red. And the way that I would describe it back then is not the way I would describe it now. Because I didn't have any frame of reference of what to describe it to back then. But I always described it like I took a handful of opiates. And that's because that was kind of, because I got that euphoric feeling. I got the euphoric feeling and like everything just kind of eased in me. And I was like, this is pretty neat. This stuff's pretty great. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, it's not alcohol. So I went to a bar later and got drunk. And then,
Yeah.
and then I met up with this candidate at the kava bar and he and I were talking one night and he was like, so if I get elected, which the humor in a libertarian saying that sentence is hilarious.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
To the House of Representatives, it's going to happen eventually, people, don't worry, but not in 2013. But in 2013 he said, or I guess it's 2014, he said, if I get elected, I want to have you on my staff up in DC. And I was like, all right, cool. No, I would love that. And he goes, but I'm worried that you're an alcoholic. I was like, I am not an alcoholic. He goes, okay, let me just ask you a couple of questions. And I was like, all right. And he goes, when was the last time that you went a day without a drink? And I was like, well, I mean, like a day without a drink, I don't know, like I may have had like a beer with dinner kind of a thing or, something like that. And he goes, okay, that's fine. When was the last time you woke up without a hangover? And I said, well, I never get hangovers, which is part of the reason I became an alcoholic. And he was like, okay, that's fair. When was the last night that you drank that you didn't black out? And I could not answer that question to save my life. And I went, huh. And that was on a Saturday, I think. That was on a Wednesday. That was on a Wednesday. And then I drank Wednesday, Thursday. I drank that night, and then I drank Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday, I woke up and I went to this bar. It was Sunday, September 7th. I went to this bar that I used to go to watch football. And I'm a Rams fan. Years of terrible luck and awful teams finally paid off this year, and we won the Super Bowl. But this was during the terrible time when nobody wanted to watch the Rams anywhere, even in places where they said, we'll have every game on. So I showed up at like 1:00 and the Rams were supposed to be playing the Bears. And I was like, hey, where's the Rams Bears game? And the bartender knew me because I was a regular. And so she had given me a pitcher of Bud Light because, you know, it was 1 PM. Like, don't judge me on Bud Light, but it was 1 PM. I'm not going hard.
Right.
I did get a pitcher, but and so I was like, yeah, where's the Rams and Bears game? And she was like, oh, it was on that TV, but nobody wanted to watch it. So we changed it for, I don't know, some other game, Cincinnati or something. And I was like, but I wanted to watch the Rams game. And she was like, yeah, sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So I finished my pitcher and I was like tired and I was bitter and I was angry. Oh yeah, I'd woken up next to somebody and I didn't know who she was too. Like, and like that was fucking with my head. I was just like, oh man, did I bring somebody home last night? I was like, well, obviously I did because she's here and we're both naked. I have no idea who this is.
Yeah.
So that happened. So like I'm just not having a good day. And she was like, do you want another picture? I was like, no, I can go home and not watch the Rams game for free. So, so I went home and I went home that day and one of my coworkers at the time had given me a pot brownie. And I didn't really smoke pot. Like I got paranoid from it. But I was like sitting at home and I'd only had that one pitcher of beer, which sounds weird to say. I'd only had that one pitcher of beer, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to sleep. So I ate the pot brownie that night and drifted off into a nice sleep. And then the next day, like I started getting the itch to go out to the bar. And there was a new kava bar that had opened up like 2 blocks closer to my house than the bar. Because I could walk to all these places. And so a kava bar had opened up that was 2 blocks closer. So I walked there and I walked in and I was like, I walked in and I was talking to the bartender and I was like, yeah, I don't know what I want. I've had kratom before, but I don't know what I want. And she goes, how did it make you feel? And I said, it made me feel like I took a handful of Vicodin. And she goes, we don't describe it like that. And I was like, well, that's the only way I know how to describe what that is.
Deal with it. Yeah.
And she goes, and she was like, okay, she probably, and it wasn't what she gave me. But she was like, she probably gave you like a green Borneo. And I was like, sure.
Yeah.
I'll take that. Because I'm starting to sweat and I need something that's going to make this not happen right now. So she gave me a green Borneo. And she was like, do you want flavoring? And I was like, sure. And she goes, good. Yeah. Cause it's really bitter. And I was like, so she put a lot of sugar in it and I drank it so fast. And she just kind of looked at me like, you've had this before, right? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, okay. And I was like, can I get another one of those like right now? And she was like, okay. And so she gave me another one and I drank like 5 of them. And what I learned that night is if your stomach is not used to it, you will vomit violently from drinking 5 of those in a night.
Ooh.
Violently. Like I was walking home, puking into people's trash cans in the alleyway because
Jesus, dude. Just couldn't hold it.
Yeah, like there was no way. Like I went home and I just kept doing it the entire way home. But the thing that I noticed, completely cognizant the entire way. Like I remember every step of that walk. And I couldn't remember most of my walks home leading up to it. So I was like, okay. And like after that, I still like went through the entire, like I went through the DTs and like the night sweats and the shaking and like I got super sick. I didn't sleep for days. But knowing that I had that to go to, that it was an all natural thing. As I learned more about it, I understood why they didn't say that it felt like a handful of Vicodin. But as I learned more about it, I started realizing how it was that was helping me And it was a godsend. And then after I hadn't hadn't had a drink for 3 days, I started drinking kava. And the first time I tried it, I thought, why does anybody drink this? This is disgusting. It tastes like a liquefied potato. It makes your mouth numb, and yeah, when you first start drinking it, you don't even feel the effects. You don't feel any effects from it whatsoever when you first start drinking it. It's like, this is the dumbest thing ever. And like, now it's the only thing this is the only vice that I have is this.
That one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you, on your journey, have you, okay. One thing I want to get out first, kava, kratom, same thing.
No.
Okay. What's the difference?
Okay. So kava comes from the root of the intoxicating pepper plant, which can be found in the South Pacific islands like Fiji, Vanuatu, American Samoa, those areas, Hawaii. They have it. It grows on mountainsides. And it's the root. And they take this root, and there's nothing on the plant that's edible. Okay. There's nothing on the plant that's edible. So there's a lot of different rumors on how this happened, but somehow they realized that if you take this root and you grind it up and you mix it with water, it worked really well for a topical anesthetic, because that's where the numbing comes from in your mouth. So they started using it for dentistry. And so, like, if you had a toothache, you would make this and you put it in there, and your teeth would go numb. And then it was like, okay, great. And then after a while, they start realizing if you drink it, you start getting some like calming effects from it. And then you go and then it got passed down, and then the leaders of the different islands, that became their drink. It was their ceremonial thing, is they would get together around the oh man, I forgot what that thing's called. It's the large bowl that they mix it in. And they sit there, and all the men in the villages would sit around, and they would mix up a bowl of kava, and that's how they would start business meetings or, whatever, political meetings. They would all start out by drinking this, and it was a show of togetherness. And it became this big spiritual ritual thing for them. And then we stole it. But
America.
America. So kratom comes from Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Vietnam, those kind of places. And that is the leaf of the kratom tree, which is a cousin of the coffee tree. I haven't done these speeches in a while. So, okay. But kratom comes from the leaf of the kratom tree, which is a cousin of the coffee tree. I don't know how they discovered that. Like, I'm certain that was just like trial and error of trying different leaves in the jungle. And they realized that chewing on these leaves gave them energy. And so they realized that chewing on these leaves, I'm assuming, gave them energy. So they would chew on them throughout the day while they're, out doing whatever it is they were doing in the jungle. And then they realized, so they found other trees whose the veins in the leaves were slightly different, but the leaves were shaped the same. And they thought, oh, that's that same thing. And they chewed on it, and they realized that didn't give me energy. That kind of relaxed me, or that gave me a sense of euphoria, or that gave me, different things. And they realized that these leaves all had different properties, even though they were the same tree. And a lot of that had to do with how high up it was growing on the mountain, the altitude that it was growing at. So they started taking it, and they were mixing it into teas, or they were just chewing on the leaves or powder, or taking powder or whatever. And they started realizing, this stuff is great. It's all natural. It gives me these really great effects, and I can kind of move on with my day. So they're completely different. They are both 100% all natural if you're getting them from a reputable company. Because there are a lot out there that aren't. But if you're getting them from a reputable company, it's all natural. It's a leaf that is ground up, or it is a root that is ground up. and you are mixing it with water and ingesting it.
So how would somebody know if it's a reputable dealer? Like how?
So the best way that I would ever explain it to anybody is if it's at a gas station, don't buy it.
Okay.
If it's at a head shop, I probably wouldn't buy it. If it's somebody messaging you on Twitter, probably don't buy it.
Right.
Yeah, like I have the benefit of knowing a lot of kratom distributors because I worked in that industry. I don't know as many as I used to. A lot of them have gotten out of it because it became so burdensome with regulations that it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep trying to do it to get the stuff shipped in, even though it's a great moneymaker and it does amazing things. But yeah, if you are buying it in a gel cab from a head shop or whatever, just do not buy that. I'm trying to think if any of the companies that I used to follow are still around. Like I used to get it from this company, VIP Kratom, that I'm still friends with the guy who owned it, but I don't know if he still does it anymore. And then there was, Siesta Botanicals. I think they might still be around. So Siesta Botanicals has their own farm in Indonesia where they farm their own stuff. And I've seen the lab reports. I've seen all that. And they are, I'm good friends with the owner. And like I would go with companies like that where that you can see the lab work, you can see the reports. If they aren't willing to show it to you or have it available on the back of the packaging, do not buy it.
Okay. One of the things that I've heard kind of inconsistent narrative on is the addictiveness of kratom. Do you get sick if you've like taken it for a long time and you stop taking it? Is that true?
So with that, I will say I'm not a doctor.
Okay.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. So I honestly think that depends on the person.
Okay.
I knew people that drank it heavy, and I drank it a lot. I was drinking gallons of it a day. And the worst that I ever had, the absolute worst that I ever had, was if I didn't have enough of it, I'll say, like that sounds weird to say because it's not really addictive. I would get restless leg syndrome really bad.
Okay.
And I had trouble sleeping. That was the biggest issue that I found with it. So after a while, I decided that I didn't want to be beholden to kratom the way that I felt like I might be becoming.
Right.
So I went out. I was out in San Diego. And I was drinking it, and that was when I was noticing that I was getting the really bad restless leg syndrome. And I was like, okay, so at the end of the night, I would drink some. And then I was drinking less and less the entire time I was out there. And then the day that I got back to Florida, I had the red eye and I didn't sleep all night long because it's a red eye and I can't sleep on a plane. And the next morning I went straight to the bar that I worked at and I drank a white, white's like the super energetic kratom. I drank a white in the morning and that gave me enough energy to get me through until like 9-10 o'clock at night. And then I just fell asleep. And since then, that was in 2018, I think. That was in like 2018. And since then, I can count on one hand how many times I've had it. So people have told me that, yeah, I got really sick. I was vomiting. Like, it's really terrible. Other people have said, yeah, I kind of got like a runny nose for a day. So I really think it depends on the person, on how addictive it is. And I also think that if somebody wants it to be addictive, their body will make it that way.
By God, yeah. So, I mean, obviously anything you can tell I got the little extra, because so I put down put down the spoon and picked up the fork, in my
Right.
adult years, switched it on up. So yeah, any damn thing I will find a way to abuse
No, I
it.
get it. I get it. What
But
was weird? So when I real quick, when I quit
Yeah.
drinking, 2014, when I quit drinking, I weighed about 200 pounds. By March of 2015, because I quit in September, by March of 2015, I was eating an ungodly amount of calories, but I dropped 60 pounds.
dude,
I got down to 140. Like I even got below that. Like when I graduated high school, I think I was 138. And I think I got to my high school weight. And I was like, I am eating nothing but pizza and cheeseburgers and like breakfast foods. And like I put mayonnaise on everything. I thought I was dying. I thought that like I had gotten some disease from somebody I had woken up next to that I didn't know who they were. And I was like, oh man, I am dying. I came down to Florida and now I'm going to die. Like, this is awful. And so I went to the doctor and I went to this doctor once, by the way. I went to the doctor. I was like, look, I've lost 50 pounds. I quit drinking. I lost 50 pounds. I'm always tired. And this doctor looked at me and she goes, you have HIV. And I went, the fuck? Like, what? Don't you? I feel like you probably want to do a blood test before you say something like that to me.
That's not a questionnaire. What the fuck, man? Wow.
And so I went to get the blood test, and I called. I was calling the blood place, and they're like, "We can't release any information to you." And I was like, "Look, there's one thing on there. I can prove that it's me. I'll give you all the information on that sheet. You don't have to tell me any specifics. There's one question on there. You know which question it is. Just tell me if it's good news or bad news." And the girl looked at it. She goes, "You're fine." I went, "Thank you." And I never went back to that doctor again.
I don't blame you, dude. Wow. What the hell? Oh shit. Yeah. Are you a hypochondriac by nature? Like, do you kind of?
No, I'm not. Like, I'm not like. No, not even a little bit. Like, I've been to the doctor. I've gone more recently because I have health insurance now, and like I go for just regular checkups.
Yeah.
But like I didn't go to the doctor for years, and the only reason I went was because I was so tired and I had just dropped so much weight that I was genuinely concerned that something was wrong with me. I had I would not have been able to pick what. Like, no clue, but I was just like, it just nothing. It doesn't feel right. And then I guess my body just had to like reacclimate and like figure itself out all over again. After doing everything that I did to it from the time that I was 18 years old up until I quit. And it was just like, I had to figure it all out all over again, including how to process food. Like my body just sucked in all the nourishment. It was weird, but yeah, it dropped 60 pounds. And, then I started dating my fiance and I gained back most of it.
That good old relationship weight, man.
Yep, I got that relationship weight.
Yeah. Okay. So on kratom, find a distributor. And like, what does that process look like? I mean, and the reason I'm asking these questions is because I'm assuming there's probably going to be an audience member at some point who is interested about this.
Yeah.
And if they live in a state like mine, like we don't have kratom bars. Like there is not, at least not openly advertised.
Which state are you in?
Oklahoma.
Okay. So it's still legal there. So that's good. Let's see. Siesta Botanicals. Let's see if they're still doing stuff. Because he opened up a kava bar. Okay, yeah, no, they are. Yeah, it looks like they are anyway. So Siesta Botanicals, SIESTA botanicals.com is high quality kratom. It's some of the best kratom that I've had ever. It also helps that I had that after I stopped drinking it regularly, but I know the owners of this place. I know where they get it from. I know what the purity levels are. and they have all of the information on their website and just available. I'm showing it like people can see it.
Right. Yeah. I got
I'm used to my show. Where just
yeah.
like, see, look, it's
Yeah.
right there. But yeah, like they have all the information available on the website. If whoever you're buying it from isn't willing to put that information on the website, do not trust it. Assume that it's being cut with something, and since they aren't putting what the lab results are or the quality results are or anything like that, assume that what they're putting in it isn't good. Like that's the best thing I can tell you. Like there was a company called OPM, which was a very veiled marketing ploy for
Right.
opium, and they were cutting it with things. They were cutting it with things that weren't good for people, and it was causing like issues in people. And then there was another company called Mr. Nice Guy. And anybody who lives in Florida knows Mr. Nice Guy because they were famous for the spice influx in Florida, where they were like, oh, look, we can sell this stuff that kind of makes you feel like weed, like you've been smoking weed, but it's legal because it's not. And then when they banned that chemical compound, they just changed one thing of it and made it again. But they were selling it and they were doing things to it. And then it ended up that that group split up and both of them went kind of straight and they both own kava bars and sell kratom, and both of their stuff is really good and it's natural and nothing's in it. But how they got started was by tainting it.
So like they were scumbags, and then now they found the light, and they're actually
right
doing good stuff.
Right. They started realizing that, oh, this can actually help people. We don't need to be ripping people off.
Right. There was kind of like once I started hearing about kratom, like the local news stations would have stories, somebody died or this or that. And I mean, I never put stock into any of that shit anyway, but
nobody died from kratom.
No, I didn't think they did.
Because you puke it all up.
Okay.
I learned that.
Yeah.
Your body will reject it really quickly.
So, having the experience that you do, for somebody looking to, somebody hopelessly addicted to opiates, they're really wanting to stop using opiates, kratom or kava?
So, for somebody who's addicted to opiates, I know people who have gone the kratom route. I don't recommend it.
Okay.
I don't recommend it. Kratom is an opioid, so it still attaches to the opiate receptor in the brain, and it gives you that same feeling. And I have seen people that have successfully done it. If you do want to try kratom and go that route, there is a method that I know has worked for some people, but I don't recommend just going, okay, I'm just going to switch to kratom, because you'll get the same issue that you had before where you're kind of chasing the dragon a bit, not nearly on that level. But you'll get that, okay, that felt great the first time, and the second time and the third time it didn't feel as good, but you had another one, and then eventually it becomes a massively expensive habit to have. Hobby, we'll call it a hobby. It becomes a massively expensive hobby. So I don't recommend kratom for people who have opiate problems. If you use it very sparingly, like when it's bad, and you use like a red kratom, a red manga, or a red Borneo, yes, like that's fine. But if you are using it all day long, like I've seen people, like where we are here in Florida, there's a lot of people who go through different rehabs, mostly not by choice. And and they live in halfway houses around the area, and then they'll go to kava bars because they can't drink alcohol because they can't come back and piss hot.
Right.
So, and they can't, use any drugs so they end up going to kava bars, and they realize that some of the effects are very similar, and they're like, this is great. And at first they're like, this is how I'm going to get off of everything. And they get through their program, and they continue using they continue coming and using kava and kratom, and a few of them get out and they're fine and everything's great. But the vast majority of them, especially the ones that drank a lot of kratom, it was months that I stopped seeing them, and I knew exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. They realized that the high was better the other way, and they went back.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. That's kind of the thing with it, right? Like with any recovery, like, so yeah, you use kratom and kava, and that helped, but you also did some changes in your personal life. Like you made some decisions, you changed your circle, you got, you obviously have a support system now. When you use something as a placeholder, that's exactly what it's going to be. And you're going to go right back to where you came from. That's why, like, people talking about, what is it, ibogaine and ayahuasca and, a lot of these, they're wonderful so long as you're doing actual work on your personal life beyond that. But
yeah, I know a lot of people who have gone the ayahuasca route, and I've never heard of the other one, the ibogaine.
Ibogaine, yeah.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. First off, second off, I just remember seeing a documentary on it a while ago. You can only go down to Mexico to get it. It's another ayahuasca type experience. It's purported to be a reset for the addict's brain. It's specifically geared towards, addicts and alcoholics, whereas ayahuasca is also geared towards, really depressive issues and mental health stuff and, stuff like that. So I don't know.
Yeah. Anytime that I see anything that's like, yeah, this will reset an addict's brain, like they're saying that for ketamine, and I'm like, I don't know about that. Yeah. I 100% believe. I'm just gonna I think everything should be legal. Like I think everything should be legal. But I believe in the medicinal properties of hallucinogenics. I do. I think that used properly, mushrooms and acid and other hallucinogenics can be great if done correctly. Mm. But they all have the ability to be abused. The last time that I did mushrooms, it was after I quit drinking, and I considered myself sober from alcohol. I didn't consider myself sober because I was still drinking kava and kratom, but my issue was alcohol and drugs. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And I was going through this really dark period, and I'd gone through a breakup so I didn't do any research before I quit everything, except for kava and kratom. But I didn't do any research, and I didn't realize that when you quit, your brain resets to when you started using. And then I was this grown man with the brain emotionally of an 18-year-old. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't figure out how to deal with things, and I was just angry. And one of my buddies was like, look, let's reset. And I was like, how? And he was like, we're going to do some mushrooms. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that. He goes, no, look, this is different. This is medicinal that we're doing this. And it was enough to convince me because I was just tired of being angry. And we did them, and we sat down and we kind of did it in a ceremonial sort of way. And after that, I came out of that clear and haven't had any desire to do another hallucinogen since then. Like I haven't had a desire to drink. I haven't had the anger that I was holding on to. Like a lot of it just, we got through it and he helped me find my way through it by guiding me through it on this night. So I see the medicinal value in it, but most of the people that I see who are like, oh yeah, ayahuasca is great because it helps you blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Have you ever done DMT?
Right.
If you're using ayahuasca more than, once every 5 years, you're probably abusing it because you're using it not for what its intended use is.
Yeah.
And I've never done ayahuasca, and I have zero desire to. Somebody asked me recently if I wanted to kind of do another cleansing with hallucinogens. And I was like, I am in such a good place. I am not putting anything into this brain because I do not want to mess with anything going on right now. And he goes, that is great to hear and the most mature thing I've ever heard you say. So
yeah, that's big league stuff right there, man.
Because I was like, normally I would have been like, yeah, let's
get it.
Why not?
Let's get it. Yeah.
Let's get it. And that's when I was like, no, everything's going so well for me. There is no way I'm doing anything to mess with this chemistry that I got working.
Well, that's a testament in itself right there, man. You went from doing anything to get your hands on to being in such a good place that you don't need to enhance constantly, Fucking awesome, man.
No, it's been a wild ride.
One of the things that I always have everybody do who comes on the show and talks about finding freedom. I like to carve out a little bit of time at the end of the episode to where you could address that one person in the audience who has tried time and again to get sober and they're just not finding it. What is the piece of advice you give them?
So for the one person for anybody in the audience, the one person in the audience that has tried time and time again and continues falling back in, I get it. Like I get it. I would do, when I was in the thick of it, I would do things here and there, be like, I'm only going to drink on the weekends. And then that would just expand. You have to, each one, you have to be able to understand that it's okay to be powerless to this. It is totally fine to be powerless to this. I'm not like an AA I didn't do the 12-step program, but understand that there are things in this world that are more powerful than you, and that being an addict is more powerful than you. And so everybody talks about how you have to make boundaries in relationships. So like we all have that toxic ex that, if they would call, you'd still be like, hey, what's up? And you're like, no, you can't do that. Like the drug or the drug or the alcohol or whatever it is your toxic ex, and it's going to call. It's going to call again, and it's going to call again, and it's going to call again. And you have to not answer that phone, and you have to set up that boundary because that's going to be what's best for you in your life. And it was when I realized that I had to look at alcohol as an ex-girlfriend that I didn't want to see anymore. And that, everything else that I used to do as well, I kind of had to do the same thing. When I started looking at it as an ex-girlfriend that I didn't want to see anymore because I knew that I was going to wake up heartbroken and broke again, that I had to set up the boundaries. So like I look at all of that as past relationships that were just terrible for me and that I needed to get out of. And alcohol was just another alcohol and drugs were just another relationship that I was in that were abusive on the I mean, I guess we both abused each other. But they abused me, and they abused me on a spiritual and mental level where I just abused them. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. But that's, you have to set up you have to set up that boundary, and you can't give in. You can never give in. It's like smoking cigarettes. I used to be, 2 packs a day kind of guy, and then I quit cold turkey one day, and I said I'm never going to smoke another cigarette, and I didn't. I haven't. That was 10 years ago now. And then the a month after I quit drinking, I started vaping. Like my body was like, I need something. Give me something now.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I still vape, but I haven't picked up a cigarette. And I swore to myself that last time I smoked a cigarette, I said, I'm never going to pick up another cigarette again in my life. And I haven't, and I won't, because that is a relationship that I had to end. And it is now, that relationship I can say is pretty much over. Nicotine, not so much, but cigarettes, right. They're gone. They are an X that is just gone.
Yeah, man, I have sat in a lot of meetings. I am a 12-step cat. I've sat in a lot of meetings, heard a lot of speaker tapes. I have never, in my memory, I've never heard anybody refer to drugs as the toxic X in that manner and establishing a boundary with it. That's good shit. That's really good shit, man.
What's funny is when that hit me was when I was going through a breakup after I quit drinking. And like I was going through a rough time because this was when I was in that dark period, and I ended up doing shrooms with a buddy of mine. Yeah. And it was after we did the shrooms, but he was like, I was like, yeah, I came to a realization. And he was like, what's that? And I was like, she was my newest addiction. Like I put everything into that because I needed something. And she was my newest addiction. So I have to look at her like I would look at alcohol or cocaine or, opiates or anything else. She is somebody that I just can't ever even sample again, which sounds weird and dehumanizing, but
it makes sense, man. It tracks.
But and then so after I came to that realization, I was like, oh my God, like my entire life, like I didn't date all that much because I was too busy doing other things. Like all of my relationships were with drugs and alcohol, and I had to keep breaking up with them. And I would trade, like alcohol was my rebound off of opiates and party club drugs. And then cocaine was like my side piece to my rebound. And like you end up getting one of them pregnant and you're with them forever. And then like kava and kratom became the rebound from that. And then like I have both of those pretty much in check. Yeah. Because like I can drink kava every day of the week, get some mild effects, but if I don't have it, I don't crave it. I don't crave it. I don't need it. I don't want it. It has zero addictive. Kava has zero addictive properties. I can drink it all day and get a nice relaxed feeling going on. And then if I don't have some or I don't go out, I'm fine. Like I can just sit there and watch TV and have a conversation and like it's nothing, and I can fall asleep and I probably sleep better. But like everything is in check that I have now. And I'm like, you know what? This is where I want to be. This is how I want it to be. I want to be able to have everything in check. I don't need to have a kava while I'm drinking or while I'm watching a football game or while I'm watching a baseball game. I don't have to have one if I'm about to have like a serious conversation, or I don't have to sneak out at work to go get some. Like I'm totally fine. The only time that I've ever had a huge craving for it was once, and that was when I gave a speech introducing Jo Jorgensen at an event when she was running for president. The moment that event was over, my energy level was so high. I was like, I just need to bring it down a little bit. Like I had that natural high, but like the energy was just like, it was a bit much. It felt a little stimulanty. So like I was like, I need a kava just to slow me down a little bit. And that's the only time I've craved it. That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Matt, you've been an absolute wonderful guest, and I can't thank you enough for hanging out, man.
Yeah, it is my pleasure. I talk about my journey a lot on Muddied Waters Media, and it it is one of my journey brought me to Muddied Waters Media. It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't quit drinking. Like that,
Hmm.
this wouldn't be a thing if I hadn't quit drinking. And the successes that I found, like it was ups and downs because I'm 7.5 years now without alcohol. Um, like it's had its ups, it's had its downs. There were days that I didn't know I was going to make it through to the end of the day. And I did have the right support system in place that I could call these people and they gave me the right advice. Um, but Muddied Waters Media wouldn't be a thing without it. And if I can help people on Muddied Waters Media who have any kind of issues, then I want to be able to help. I want to be able to help them. I want them to know that they are not alone, that people have gone through this. It feels like you're alone. It is tough. It is hard, but somebody is there just to reach out to and you can talk to them. And that's why I tell people you can message me on Facebook. If you have my number, call me. And I am always there to talk if you are going through it because I understand it and I don't want you to falter.
That's awesome, man. So Muddied Waters Media, that's what they search for on Spotify, all that,
Yeah,
YouTube.
Spotify, YouTube, Odyssey. I think we're on Rumble.
Dang.
Twitter, Facebook, Insta. I know, like I set all these up, and I don't even know all of them.
There's so many, man. That's the thing.
There's so many.
Yeah.
We're on your favorite podcasting app. You can find us on Odyssey, and you can find us on YouTube, and we're on Facebook and Twitter,
Cool.
and everything from there. You'll find us.
Well, man, everybody go check them out, and thank you, Matt. I hope to get you back on in the future, man. Anytime you want.
No, definitely. I this was cathartic. Like this was oddly cathartic. I thought I was just going to come on and talk about kava and kratom for a little bit and a little bit about Muddied Waters, and then it was just kind of like, all right, well, let's do this one. I like this.
Yeah.
I feel good.
I do too,
I feel
man.
good.
I think there's something to be said about okay, and I don't think either one of us are like church people, but I like that scripture that's like the iron sharpens iron. When I hang out with my people, I tend to walk away a little bit better off because of that,
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. That was I definitely feel I feel this one in my soul today, and I appreciate that.
Anytime, man. All right, well, you have a good night, Matt.
You do the same, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, there you guys have it. Thanks again to Matt for coming on and sharing his story with us. And if you're out there and you heard his story or there's any part of it that really spoke to you, reach out to the guy. He's very approachable. He's been an awesome source of information, obviously, for me. But I had no problem getting a hold of him, and you shouldn't have any problem either. So, and if nothing else, be sure and check out Muddied Waters Media. Support them and what they're doing over there. And anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Just kind of a heads up, I'm not sure what the month of May is going to look like for me. I know starting out the month, I've got a men's retreat that I'm going to, and I'm really considering bringing the laptop along with the microphone and kind of having a little impromptu, episode that I do with some of the guys that show up there. And, at the end of the month, obviously it's Reno. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to kick out any content, to be honest with you, this next month. I might take a month off. But, I'll be back in June. I already have some really great guests lined out. Among them, I've got Hannah Cox. I've got Ben Westhoff, author of, Fentanyl Inc. And the podcast isn't going away. I just might take a much needed break. Might even just, replay some old episodes. But anyways, I love you guys so much. Going to transition into the song of the day. This is a band called Death. And I had never heard of them before up until they stumbled, across a pod or a playlist that I was listening to on Spotify. And apparently there's a backstory to this band. Apparently, like, this was like an old school punk band that never had any of their stuff really produced, or at least not, heavily circulated. And, semi recently, people got their hands on it and started really pushing it out there, which is why I found it on Spotify. But this is just a killer song. I've been really vibing with it and kind of just putting this into my regular playlist. And this is a song called Politicians in My Eyes. And so anyways, I hope you guys like it. I hope you have a phenomenal week. Thank you so much. I love you guys, and we will see you soon.
They wanna be boss, they don't care who they step on, as long as they get along. Politicians in my eyes. They thinking less about you, they thinking less about me. As long as they are put in the place that they want to be, they're always wearing false smiles, like they go with the style. Politicians in my eyes. Politicians in my eyes. They're always trying to convince us like we don't have the sense. They look just like these queens, but they do real stupid things that they use to trust them because you're their biggest friends. Politicians in my eyes.